welcome and thank you. And over to you.
So my dear friend Kamal has put more pressure on me. We are now live on YouTube, which means I'm also being recorded. So if I get anything wrong, you guys can always pick me up. So once again, welcome all of you. Welcome students of MBA 1, Shulini University. It's a true honor to be here. I think I was listening to the discussions and I can tell you that this is so amazing to see all of you here, smiling faces, and the quality of the discussion was so amazing. So great work, Poonam ma'am, great work, Kuldeep, and great work to all the students. I'm going to talk about leadership today, and we need a lot of leadership at this moment. We need a lot of leadership because we are in crisis, and crisis does need leadership. But we also need a lot of leadership from you, leadership from everyone around. And I'm saying you because you people are the ones who are the future of the country. And I'll talk a bit about that later. So what is leadership? Is Modi a leader? Yes or no? Of course, you'll all say no, also yes. Is Barack Obama a leader? Is Donald Trump a leader? I think the answer comes yes. But is Poonam a leader, let me ask? Is Kuldeep a leader? And I would say yes, because they're stepping up and they're coming up and doing new things. Let me ask another question. Is, let's say, one of your seniors who's here today doing work for Shulini and he's staying in the hostel, is he a leader? And he's stepping up, Vipul as an example. I think the answer is yes, because he's stepping up into situations where he was not called for. So that's leadership. Someone like a Suresh, for example, who keeps our campus clean, green, flowery, blossomy, he's a leader. So all of you can be leaders. It's not about just being a political leader. So there are different debates about what a leader is. And I'm not going to talk about all of those because you can always go to YouTube and you should do that. Listen to what a leader is all about. A leader has different traits. What I'm going to do today is share a few stories. So I've had around 25 odd years of experience in 20 plus in the corporate sector, in consulting firms, working with great business leaders, and another 5 to 6 at Shulini full time, working with great leaders like Poonam, Kuldeep, and others, Dr. Khosla, for example. So I put some 5 stories together, 5 stories of leadership that I wanted to share with all of you. And that's the topic that I'm going to talk about today. So I'm going to bring up a small presentation. It's actually 100-page long, so bear with me, Kuldeep. I've always believed in death by PowerPoint. Okay. Wonderful. So today I'll be talking about my experiences with some exceptional leaders. I'm going to talk about, how do I move this down? Oh, okay. I'm going to talk about 5 stories and my learnings from these exceptional people I've worked with in my life. So as a quick recap, some of you might have heard my story before. I started working with McKinsey & Company way back in 1995. It was a big day for me when I got selected. It was a big day because some 8 of us had been hired by McKinsey. This was the world's #1 consulting firm. We were all over in the news. We were covered in the Economic Times. But more importantly, when I came back home, I heard that India Today had put our pictures of all the 8 students who had been hired by McKinsey on the cover page of India Today. And India Today in those days was printed, Kuldeep. It wasn't the way it is now. It wasn't virtual. So big pressure on me, big pressure on all of us to deliver. So I worked with some amazing people at McKinsey. The first person that I ever worked with was a person by the name of Tino Puri. So Tino Puri was the managing director of India for McKinsey & Company. He was an amazing guy. He was exceptional when it came to talent. He had such an amazing personality, Poonam, that when he walked the corridors, people just hid themselves and they went to some other room. This guy was great. But Tina was a great mentor. Tina was just phenomenal in terms of stretching the team. Tina was just phenomenal about making sure that all of us delivered excellence, not once, not twice, but every time. And he would roll up his sleeves when needed. He could dive into the details and push all of us to deliver exceptional results. I've never seen anyone more admired in the corporate world, not just in India, but everywhere in the world than Tino Puri. And that was magic. So I was very lucky. I sort of ended up knowing him very well and ended up spending several evenings with Tino. And what Tino told me many, many times was his concept of leadership. And the one thing I learned from Tino was the difference between being liked and being respected. So some of you might sometimes think that, Atul sir is or Atul is sometimes a little khadus, sometimes is a little hard on us. And why? And probably I overstretched myself in the learning I got from Tino, but in one of my discussions with Tino, he once said, Atul, you need to be respected, not always liked. So what he meant by that was, he said that normally when we're working in teams, normally as a leader, the misconception is that you should be liked. People should say, oh, this person is very nice. We love working with him. But that's not the only thing. They should also respect you. They should respect you for what you are. They should respect you for capabilities. But most important, they should respect you for being neutral, for always having the right judgment on you, for being impartial, for being trustworthy. And I think if those are the traits you can bring in to your peers, you will become a great leader. So that's my first lesson. Not always being respected, not always being liked, but always being respected. Being respected all the time is actually very, very important. Of course, if you can do both, respected and liked, that's the best. But people who are only nice, as Tino told me, take it as an insult. It's not a great compliment that you're a nice guy. You should be respected, and people should say, we see you as a role model. So as you go into your internships, as you go into your work, that is the first lesson I'd like to share. The second lesson I'd like to share with you guys, or a story I'd like to share with, is a person called Peter Bender Samuel. After McKinsey, I co-founded a company called the Everest Group, and Peter Bender Samuel was the founder or the senior partner in this company. He was based out of Dallas, and I was living out of Delhi. So 3 months after starting, and that's a very amazing story. So 3 months after starting Everest, I had some major personal problems. I didn't know what to do. I just couldn't focus on work. In fact, I couldn't focus on work. I had some major challenges. So I wrote a very interesting mail to Peter. I said, Peter, it's getting very difficult for me to work. I have 3 options. I continue the way it is, and I know that's not the right thing. So I don't think that's the real option. Second, I can go part-time, and you can probably give me half the salary. And third, I will quit. I don't think I'm able to justify being in the firm anymore. Peter was a very busy man. He would normally never reply. He was also dyslexic. He is dyslexic. Difficult to type or write on iPhone, as you call it today. But within minutes, Peter wrote back to me saying, Atul, are you free? I'm going to call you. And within 5 minutes, he called me. And what amazing thoughts he left me. He said, Atul, you're part of a family. It does not matter that you can't justify your existence right now. We are there to support you. I'm a Christian. I'm going to support you. So your first option and your last option are not acceptable. Continue 50%, but I will give you 100% salary. The learning was very simple. Live by your values. His values were to build a great company. His values were make sure that the great people are with you. And he supported me, of course, up to a while. After 3 months, he called me back and said, it's not working the way it is, Atul. When do you think we should get back to work? And I said, okay, give me another 2 months. Then I went a little bit of part-time, and then I went back to the company. The point was, it's not as if it's a free lunch. You can be, getting 100% of a salary with 50% of your work. At that point of time, when I needed help, he was there for me. And he was there for me despite the fact that the business was still very, very early days. He probably took money out of his savings and gave it to me. But that's what values is all about. Great leaders live by values. All of you have to live by your values. Live by values of being honest, integrity, and also making sure that you don't lie at work. And we'll be talking about this a little later, but there's a normal thought that many of you young generation people have, that if we are, chalu as we call it, we will do well in life. It is untrue. Maintaining your values, dear friends, is actually one of the most critical things for you to succeed. Please, please, please keep this in your mind all the time as you think about your life and your career. Third, Nils. So after Everest, I moved to Switzerland and I co-founded another company called A Connect, and I moved to Switzerland. By the way, some of you might know that I also fly planes, and so did Nils. So very amazing guy. He used to have a plane called a Sukhoi 26M that you see on the left top side of this exhibit. A very colorful person. Amazing person that I ended up working with. He was also my senior partner at A Connect and also the co-founder. He used to love planes. He used to love planes to the extent that he owned 3 planes. It's actually not that expensive to own planes in Switzerland. So I've been from Zurich to London flying a plane with Nils, and we would reach there. Normally it takes an hour, and we would take first 2 hours to go to the airfield near Zurich, and then another 2 hours away we would land in London and fly for 2 hours. But what amazing time! Imagine once we said, let's go to Berlin for some shopping, and we sort of flew in the afternoon, and we went to Berlin, we did our shopping, and came back in the evening. And that was Nils Aganda. Very, very successful. If you go to Switzerland and you give his name to any CEO, people would know Nils, and they would know him very, very well. They would know him as a friend. They would know him as a mentor. They would know him as one of the most charismatic business leaders in Switzerland. But despite all of that, despite the fact that he's very successful, he's very busy, he still maintains his hobbies. He still maintains this whole hobby about flying planes, not to just flying planes. He's also in the aerobatic airplane team of Switzerland. He flies, he takes risks in flying, he pursues his passion. So my learning was pursue your passion. All great leaders, all great people in this world have got amazing hobbies. They have hobbies, the things that they love to do and they excel in them. People like Narendra Modi, for example, do amazing yoga. I don't know whether you've seen him do that, but he can flex his body in amazing ways. Dr. Costa, for example, does meditation every day. He does 3 hours of meditation every day. Every successful person has a great hobby. Steve Jobs, you might know, I don't know whether you know this, but he used to play the guitar and also was big time into yoga. So every successful person, every great leader has a story beyond what you see from the outside. There's a deep core inside him or her. So all of you have something special. All of you are either, I would say, you would either play the guitar, or you would sing songs, or you would cook food very well. You're great chefs, or you could be painting very well, or you could be very good in sports, or whatever it is. But all of you have done very, very well in life in at least 1 or 2 things. I strongly encourage you to follow your passion. It pains me, when I ask students, do you sing? Sometimes they ask this question and they say, yeah, we sing. But they refuse to come on stage. And that's the difference between a leader and a person who's not that successful. At McKinsey, when I used to hire, and we would go to Ahmedabad and some of the best universities of the world, the last question we would ask them would be on their hobbies. And the last decision point amongst the panel, the interview panel, would be a question which said, or which asked, what if you had to spend 6 hours alone with this person on an aeroplane or at the airport or a railway station? Would you like to be with him or her? And that was the final litmus test for hiring this person, because we did not want to spend time with people who were boring or nerds. And the good news is all of you are lovely people. All of you have great hobbies. All of you are very special. So if someone tells you study all the time, you know what to do. Just tell them it's bullshit. Go out, read your books, play the guitar, listen to music, build a life outside of work. Follow your passion. The fourth story I'm going to tell you is Sandeep Bakshi. So after Everest, this was from 05 to 08, I came back to India with a company called Oliver Wyman. Oliver Wyman is the third largest consulting firm in the world, and I took over as the India CEO. There was no business. I set it up, I built it. 2008 is when I came in. 2008 was an amazing year. For people in the banking industry and the financial services industry, which I was looking after, it was way worse than today. 2008 is when the financial markets collapsed. I'll give a small example. Citibank, whose share was at around $120, crashed to 40 cents, which means it crashed to less than 1% of the value of its share. That was the extent of the crisis in 2008. I'm not saying right now we are not in crisis, we are, but 2008 was very bad. So I'd moved from Switzerland to India with a dream in my eyes to build a business, and the crash happened. Oh God. For 1 year, we had no client. For 1 year, we had no client. There was no business. Very, very difficult time. I can't explain. We had already built a team of 15 people, and there was no work to give to them. That's the time when I met Sandeep Bakshi. Sandeep is now the CEO of ICICI Bank. Many of you would know. At that point of time, he was the CEO of ICICI Prudential Life Insurance Company, which is also a subsidiary of ICICI Bank. So he became a dear friend, and we started working with ICICI Prudential. That was actually my first client after coming back to India. And the beauty of consulting is that it builds some great relationships, some great friendships. And Sandeep became a very dear friend. He continues to be a very dear friend. He continues to be a great guy. I send a message to him, he always replies. And that's the beauty of a great leader. So what did I learn from Sandeep? So Sandeep was a very cool guy. He would never lose his cool. He was always very composed. And every time I would meet him, he would say one very simple lesson. All the time he would repeat it with his people, with his team, with me, with everyone around. And the lesson was very simple. The lesson is, a lot of people believe that politics will take you ahead in work. It's not the work. And his learning was, it's work that takes you ahead. It's not politics. So let's step back and look into Sandeep's life. Sandeep was not that high-flying banker. Sandeep was never in the spectrum of those blue-eyed bankers that you would hear, Chanda Kochar and the likes. Sandeep was always that hard-working person who was always reliable. So he rose within the ranks of ICICI. He became the CEO of ICICI Prudential. Remember in 2015, he called me and said, Atul, let's have lunch. This is probably the last lunch I'm going to host for you at ICICI Pru, because I'm going to retire and I'm just wondering what to do after retiring. And he accepted a board position at Shulani also. And bingo, there were crises at ICSCI, and who was picked? Sandeep was picked to become the CEO of ICICI Bank. Why? Why not so many others were these high-flying bankers? Because he was known for his work, and he was known for no-nonsense work, and he was known to be a non-political person. He never ever indulged in politics. So if anyone ever tells you that it's politics that is critical in a work environment, again, you know what to tell them. It's all bullshit. It's work that matters. Trust me, not politics. Politics can take you to the next level. After that, very, very, very difficult. So work hard, work with passion, work with commitment, work with ownership, work with the values. And if you can bring all of that together, nothing can stop you. Now you'll ask me, why is this all relevant in my summer internship? I'll do this later on when I'm Sandeep Bakshi's age or Atul your age. Dear students, dear friends, it's a habit. Leadership is a habit. Leadership is not about something that you can start, switch on and switch off. I remember when I did my internship, I was at Citibank. The office used to close at 5 o'clock. Pata nahi kahin se aag lag gayi. We just wanted to do something exceptional. So we would beg the head of that office, head of Western, the Bombay branch of Citibank, and we would beg him to say, please, sir, can you open the office till 6:30? Can you open the branch till 6:30? Because we wanted to make some sexy presentations. Me and another friend of mine, I don't remember his full name. We used to call him Randy. Now don't laugh at it, but that's the type of names we have. You all guys know it, right? I'm sure you have interesting names for each other. So Randy and I just wanted to build some great presentations. In those days, we didn't have laptops. I'm talking about 1994. So we had to be in the office. So we were so committed that we would plead to keep the office open. And what happened? Both of us got offers from Citibank. Of course, I later on joined McKinsey, but I can tell you, if I had not put that passion, I had not put that ownership, I had not shown leadership at the time of my summer internship, I would not have made it to McKinsey, because 90% of the questions which are asked when you go for your final interviews are going to be asked about your internship. And if you've done your internship well, with passion, whatever that is, you'll do well. But some of you might be in a difficult situation. We are living in a state where the world is still not open. So you can still do interesting things. For example, you can go out and do edX courses. You can do some online courses. edX is the leader in online programs. And I'm very delighted to share with you today that, Shulani has partnered with edX. They've given us a grant of 3 crore rupees. Any one of you can do any course on edX, any course that you feel like. That could be a summer internship. Do 2 courses, do 2 projects out of that. Go and do some social work. No one stops you. The classical way of internships might not be there, but who cares? But again, don't bring politics into your work. It's the work that matters, not politics. The 5th story is my Shulani story. So post Oliver Wyman, I then moved to Shulani and ended up working with my father, your Vice Chancellor, Professor Khosla. Sons always laugh at their fathers. They think their fathers don't know much. And that's the way I would think too. But as I worked with Professor Khosla, I learned that he was a great leader. And I really, really love him for a few things. He's a risk taker. He's a dreamer. When I step back and think about the 40 plus years that I know him in a sizable way, I remember him because before that I was too young a kid. I've never ever heard my dad or him as my boss ever say no. He's always positive. He's always dreaming. And he's always ready to take risk. If you give an idea to him, he's the first one to pick it and say, oh, let's implement. His eyes suddenly start sparkling. He starts thinking about the next dream. We were in a call yesterday and we were talking about research, and that's his latest passion. He is aspiring for Shulani to become a top 200 global university. That's impossible by normal thoughts. A top 200 global university? Not even the mighty IITs are in the top 400. They're not. The highest ranked IIT is IIT Bombay, ranked 350 to 400. What is the chance of Shulani? That's a question I would ask 10 years back. But the reality is we're almost there. We got ourselves benchmarked by the same rating agency, the THE, Times Higher Education. And guess what? I don't know whether you guys know this, but we were ranked 350 to 400 by them in this benchmarking exercise. The same rank as IIT Bombay. And who's done it? You people. People like Kuldeep, Poonam, and other faculty members, Amar. All of you have made the impossible start looking possible. So the first time we'll be able to compete for the rankings will be 2022. And who knows, we might be in the top 200. And if we do that, I can tell you there'll be some committees who will be formed against us because the IITs will ask, how can they do it? We can't do it. We've been there for 50 years. But that's what the whole point is. You have to take risks and you have to live your dream. You have to think big and you have to think the impossible. As I always say in Shah Rukh Khan's words, इतनी शिद्दत से तुम्हें पाने की कोशिश की है कि हर जर्रे ने हमें मिलाने की साजिश की है. That's what happens. When you're dreaming, people do not believe you. But when you start working on it, when some time passes, other people start joining that bandwagon. आपने सब ये एक बहुत शेर है मजरू सुल्तानपुरी का, हम तो चले थे अकेले मंजिल मगर और आप सब आते गए और कारवां बनता गया. ये सब आपका स्टोरी भी हो सकता है. This can be your story. You can become entrepreneurs. You can become an entrepreneur inside the company you work with or at home. A small, simple thing. Go back to your mother and say, I'm going to make something very special for you today. Something you've always dreamt of. You can learn how to do that. There's enough knowledge on the internet, as you guys know. Go and see, if you're fond of Continental, go and see a YouTube video of Jamie Oliver, for example. He's one of the greatest chefs of the world, or Gordon Ramsay. Go out and, cook that lovely dish for your mother, or your father, or your sister, brother, whoever. That's leadership. That's going out and stretching yourself and doing exceptional things. I would also request you to start writing your dream down. All of you would have a dream. When I ask students like you, what's your dream? I sometimes get very diplomatic answers. My dream is to work in a good company, in a good job. That cannot be a dream. A dream has to be outside the box. My dream, for example, is to win the Nobel Prize. Who knows I'll win it or not, but I have a dream. I have a dream that's exceptional, that people laugh at you and say, "Pagal ho gaya." That's what a dream is all about. And then take the risk to implement your dream. Having a dream is of no use if every day you do not work on your dream. So I'm going to do a quick recap, and I would love questions from you guys. I think that's the best way to get into the discussion. So I've spent a little bit of time now. 5 quick recaps, the 5 stories. Tino Puri, my first boss, he taught me not to be just liked, but also respected. It's very important. Peter Bender Samuel, my co-founder at Everest Group, he taught me how to live by values. Nils Egander, when I went to Switzerland and we co-founded A-Connect, he was a great guy who would always follow his passion. So follow the hobbies, follow the passion. Sandeep Bakshi, when I came back to India, CEO of ICICI Bank, he taught me it's work that matters, not politics, so rise above politics. And finally, Dr. Khosla, I really, really admire. And I think the best leader I've ever worked with is Dr. Khosla. And I'm not saying this because I'm his son, because I really, really admire him. And he's taught me to say, live your dream, take risks. And these are the 5 mantras I live my life on when it comes to leadership. But before we actually go and open it up for questions, who can who cannot talk about my favorite out of everyone, someone that I really admire, and that is Steve Jobs. So I'm going to show a small video and then talk about Steve Jobs.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Wow. Here's to the crazy ones. They push the race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And this can be your story. This is your time. This is your moment. Think crazy. Be crazy. Look into the mirror and ask yourself, what can I do which is different today? Why I should behave like what everyone tells me. Of course, in a positive way. We do not want you to become Dawood Ibrahim. But if you're crazy and if you can dream to become super special, there's nothing that can stop you. Time for me to stop and time for me to ask questions. Thank you very, very, very much. This is my first webinar. I hope I did a good job. Thank you. It's very, very exciting to all of you. Amazing students. Questions, please.
Yes, please. You can raise your hand and then unmute yourself, or Sharad will do it for you. Please do feel free to ask questions.
So why don't you start, Kuldeep? I think we can warm up. You can also write your questions on the chat board. I think that is many times easy rather than ask questions. So you can always put it there.
I have a question, and this is regarding again the leadership aspect that talked about. It said that it's quite lonely at the top. So once you are a leader, it actually becomes quite lonely there. How do you cope up with these challenges?
Absolutely, I think it is lonely at the top. Yes and no. I think you can't go out and, normally in our lives we all have juice. We love juice. Human beings love juice, and you know what I mean by that. We all love complaining, and we all love talking against our superiors. We all love all those juicy things about them. But I think as you move and reach the top, it's very difficult because you can't show a weakness to your juniors. I think there are few things that you can do. You can maintain your friendships with your team. Of course, you can't open up on every insecurity of yours, because if I'm insecure and I tell you something, Kuldeep, and I pass on that insecurity to you, which I can't. So do have a mentor, I would say. That's one. There should be someone that you have that you really trust. And this person can be and should be outside your place of work or place of study, someone that you can call up any point of the day, anytime, and sort of ask questions. I think that's very important. So I think that mentor could be your senior, it could be a friend, it could be someone that you respect, even your parents. I seek, by the way, parents are great people that you can rely on. So I do a lot of my thinking with the parents. Then it's with the spouse, right? I mean, it's probably early for you, but soon some of you will get married, once you've graduated. So, I think as you do your litmus test with your spouse, whether you should marry him or her, I think that's one thing you should test. Can you share your insecurities? Can you share your feelings? Can you share? It's not just about just having fun, but also having sensible discussions. So I think having that network of people that you can rely on in times of need in times of stress. And I think it's very important. But it's very, very important to release yourself. I think it's also critical, in my opinion, to do things like yoga and meditation. I don't do much of it, but I plan to. I think it really, really is critical. If you guys can start at 25 or 23, by the time you're my age, you'll be all yogis and you'll be bade pahunche hue, you'll really reach huge amounts of success. So don't wait till age 45, 50 to start meditation and yoga. I would say to start today if you think and feel like. So I think these are a few tips, Kuldeep.
Thank you so much,
Couple
sir.
of students want to know that you've shared, you've had a lot of success stories, but they want you to share some failure that you faced in your life, and then how did you cope with it and what helped you to cope?
Oh, I have got lots and lots of failures. Okay, so I can start right from the start. I would always come and I'll start way back and I'll quickly go through my life journey. So way back in my 10th standard, I think my first so-called traditional failure happened, Poonam. Probably my failure happens right from the day I was born, in a sense that I was born premature. I was born 7 months, and I was kept in an incubation. I was like, if you see my old pictures when I was born, I'm like the size of a rat. I think I was 2.2 pounds or even less than that. So I was actually born in a crazy way. So when I never came second in my life in my school, and somewhere in my 10th standard I came fourth. So when the principal announced the names of people, 1, 2, 3, 4, I was not in the list who went to pick up the award, and something struck me, and I said, "Shit!" There's a guy called Anurag Goyal. Anurag Goyal, he came third, I think. So till date, and Anurag is the brother of our dear friends from Manav Mandir. Every time I meet his brother, still he'll tell me, Poonam, that, oh, Anurag third aaya tha, tum fourth aaya tha, right? So it was like a big thing. I never came second and I came fourth. So what did I do? I went back. My elder brother, I told him that, shit man, kuch ho gaya. He said, don't worry, abhi NTS ka exam hai. There's something called the National Talent Search Examination, which is very prestigious. One person from the state gets it. So the next 10 days, we put everything into it, I think, including Ashish. And I came first in Himachal. That was my first success after that failure, Poonam. After that, I started studying for IIT, and I didn't make it to IIT my first time. I thought that my world had collapsed. How could I not make it to IIT? So I took admission at a place called REC Silchar, which was somewhere in Assam. And my brother used to be in Peck in those days, and he used to show me pictures of a swimming pool and stuff. So I went to REC Silchar and I asked those guys, where is your swimming pool? There's a big talab over there full of mud. And those guys pushed me into the talab and said, that's a swimming pool. And I came back and I said, I'm not going to go to Silchar. I'm going to prepare for IIT. So I prepared for 1 year and I got selected into IIT and got to IIT. And I was a failure at IIT. I failed in my physics exam. In my second week, I got rows of zeros. I didn't know what to do. And then Poonam, I failed in my mathematics exam in my second semester. And you guys can't understand it, but there was a summer vacation that was supposed to happen. And I was supposed to come back and I had plans that I'll go to Solan, I'll walk up the Karol Ka Tibba, shift, whatever, Pahadi, everything. And suddenly I had to spend my summers in Kanpur, which was like burning hot, 48 degrees Celsius. I can't explain what that meant. And I promised myself, ab kuch bhi ho jaye, kitna bhi ganda grade aa jaye, fail nahi hoga. So failure was not, so I barely managed my courses. I graduated with 6.2 CGPA. It was a tough time. I then told myself I want to go to the US for my higher studies, do an MBA. I got admission at a university called Berkeley, UC Berkeley, but dad didn't have money. He said, "मैं plot है बेच दूंगा." एक plot होता था हमारा छोटा सा पंचकुला में. I said, "नहीं, plot नहीं बेचोगे." So I came to Bombay and joined a company called Kosal. And I can tell you, Poonam, that I was a failure in Kosal. I couldn't code. I cannot code because I cannot think sequentially. I'm a very different thinker. I just couldn't think logically. So before they could fire me, I thought, let me leave. And I luckily took an exam for MBA, and I got into Bajaj, where I did my MBA, and I then joined. I was very lucky. I got into McKinsey and Company. It was a big job. I told you guys about it. 3 months into McKinsey, Poonam, Tino, the guy I spoke about, called me and said, Atul, you will not succeed in consulting. You don't have the style to succeed.
We've heard that before.
Right. And I was given a chance by Tino, and I would speak to a camera every day for 1 hour for the next 7 years. It was bloody tough. Every second day I was told, Atul, you don't have the style to succeed in consulting. So there was 7 years of huge pain. You know, I then joined a company called Watson White, which after 1 year, the company closed shop in India. I didn't have a job. So I've been, guys, fired 5 times in my life. I've left 5 different jobs. I've found jobs 5 different times. So life is not that easy. I've had challenges in my personal life. You have lots and lots of challenges, lots of failures, but I think you need to learn from them, and you should go out, look outside the window every morning and say, wow, what a beautiful day, and learn to smile. I think the world is beautiful. People are beautiful. Your friends are beautiful. Your parents are beautiful. And I think there's so many successes that will remind you of the beautiful world rather than failures. So why talk about failures? Let's talk about successes. I think what I go back and ask myself, why did I succeed more than some of my friends, my peers? I think there's one thing that differentiates me, and that is I don't hear no. I don't like hearing no, and I put everything behind my passion. I also dream very big. I think these 2 things really. So एक थोड़ा सा मैं ढीठ हूँ पूनम काम पे, और मैं बहुत organized नहीं हूँ काम पे. So Avni hates me if she's on this. She'll tell me that and Poonam, I don't read mails very well, and it's not that I don't want to, I can't, I'm just like that, right? I'm extremely unorganized. So hopefully I've got some great friends around me who help me, like you, Poonam.
More structured than you are.
Absolutely.
So there are questions around, what do you think is more important, will or skill? I think you just answered that, because some people thought you didn't have the skill to be a consultant, but I'm sure it's your willpower that kind of got you there, and then you made a successful career.
I think it's both. So first of all, you have to do something. You have to learn to do something where you have the right skill. You can build the right skill. I mean, for example, we all. I'll just take a little bit of. I'll go into science and behavioral science, but human beings, every human being, is good at one of 28 things. So we've evolved over 100,000 years as Homo sapiens. And God has given something special to survive. Some people have got brain. Some people have got great empathy. They're just great with people. Some people can anticipate things, right? Unko intuition unki bahut strong hoti hai. Some people have got a great ear for music. Some people can play music. And it's there because of survival. Think about it. In good old days, you had to survive, and you had to pass on some message to your fellow humans. So people had to sing. They had to sing like a bird so that they can tell the danger is coming. There were people who had to hear that song. There were some people who were very strong. They had to run to kill the hunt. There were some people who had to plan it, so they had great brains. Unfortunately, in today's world, we give more emphasis on the brain and on the tongue, the way we speak rather than other skills. But I think that's wrong. Find what you're best at. That is a skill that's going to take you ahead. And I can give you my example. I really struggled for the first 8 years at McKinsey because I was not a classical thinker. I didn't think like the other McKinsey guys. I was not logical in my thinking. But the day I became partner, I then decided the way I would think, right? Of course, my team gets frustrated. Avni gets frustrated so many times. Poonam, I'm sure, is frustrated the way I think. But then, sorry, I'm the boss, right? Well, I'm the leader. That's probably the better way rather than the boss. So, reach a stage where you can drive your teams to start thinking like you, because that's critical. But skills are important, and it's important for you to figure out the skill that you'll excel at. But you need to be good at pretty much everything. I think will is without will, you can't even build the skill. So the will be very, very important. Instinct or rationality? What drives the leader? Guys, There's something called the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs type indicator test. Myers-Briggs says that there are four behaviors that drive a human being. The first is whether you're extrovert or introvert. The second is whether you take decisions through data or through intuition. The third is whether we have got someone sharing his lovely screen. Okay. Lovely. Mr. Tyagi, we love you. So the second is whether you take decisions with data or with intuition. Third is whether you feel for people or you're logical. And the fourth is whether you're organized or completely disorganized. And we all have some shades of these, one of these four parameters. So there's no right or wrong behavior, I would say. Some people will be very intuitive in the way they work. Some people will be very logical. I would say just figure out what your strength is and live by that. There's no right or wrong behavior type. Some people say introvert is bad. It's not bad. It's just where you get your energy from. You know, do you get your energy from people? If you're depressed, do you go to people and go to a party when you're depressed, or are you alone in a room? And it's a unique style, and we all are. None of us are on the extreme side. We'll always somewhere be on one side or the other, and all are great traits. So be yourself, I would say. And I think the last thing, Poonam, I'd like to say is that have fun, you know, smile and have life is all about fun. If you're not having fun, you won't succeed, right? I think you have to enjoy your job. You have to love everything you do. Otherwise, you won't be able to dream. We spoke about dreaming. So I think that's my answer to that question. How do you respond to criticism? I think don't call it criticism. That's a wrong word. I call it development needs. Any criticism, take it positively, you know, figure out why that person is saying that and try to improve. So I think the moment you say it's a criticism, it's actually not. Unfortunately, most of us, and it's also a trait of a leader, we don't know how to give feedback. Secondly, we don't know how to take feedback. So I think that's a skill to both give feedback and take feedback. So the way to give feedback is to first talk about the positive things of the person and then talk about development needs. So I would use the word development needs rather than criticism. So every time your peer, your friends and others tell you something, go back and think about it and say why he or she would say it. I'd also like to say, Poonam, that in my belief, 99.5% of people are good, they're genuine and they want to help you, and they're 0.5% of people who are devils. So keep away from the devils, guys.
Exactly.
But trust the other 99.5%. They won't be doing anything which is negative.
I remember when Vivek did his first webinar some days ago, and he said that, you know, go with the feeling that there are good people around you and they want your good. So that message has really stayed with me, because you know, the moment you start eyeing everyone with suspicion and saying this one's here to pull me down, it just doesn't work. So look at the goodness of the world, look at the goodness of people around you. So one last question.
I think the two more questions I have, I think I'm up to 10:15, so 11:15, so I've got another 5-6 minutes. I can pick up a few questions. I think I'll pick up this question on post-COVID employment and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So I think if you feel like being an entrepreneur, you should, this is the right time for that. You know, the best time to be an entrepreneur is before you get married or after you're 40 and you've made some money. In between, you cannot become an entrepreneur because your family will not allow you to do that. So if you really feel like being an entrepreneur, this is your time, guys. Just do that. In any case, there are going to be few jobs. The markets are shrinking. I think there's going to be pain for your seniors for sure. Let's hope there's a recovery by the time you guys graduate out. Don't be disheartened. I think it's time to upskill yourself. It's time for you to learn from challenges. You know, I remember when I took a year off to prepare for IIT, I thought the world has come to an end. I thought, you know, मैं एक साल पीछे हो जाऊंगा. Who cares about it? So, you know, to have fun. अगर आपको internship नहीं मिलती है तो social work करो यार. Upskill करो अपने आप को. कुछ भी कर सकते हो. आजकल तो कुछ भी कर सकते हो. दुनिया में कुछ भी कर सकते हो. सब कुछ कंप्यूटर पे है. तो disheartened नहीं होना है. Stress नहीं होना है. I can only tell you, look at the migrants, guys. People who don't have food for eating. I mean, I can't tell you the type of challenges I face every day. You guys are not giving fees, so my request to all of you and my my binti to all of you will be, please give fees, because if you don't give fees, I can't pay the teachers and we can't do lovely stuff like this. So, but we are all in trouble, right? So help others, uh, and just don't get stressed. The economy is going to come back. Whether it's going to come back in 6 months or 8 months, I don't know about it, but the economy will be back. That's the rule of the world. The Great Depression took 4 years to come back, but nowadays you see a recovery in 1 year, 2 years. So I think by the time you guys graduate, you will be very lucky because the economy will be booming. Because what people will do is they'll fire people now, and then after 1 year, when the economy booms, they need lots and lots of talent. So you shouldn't be worried about employment. But I think if you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the time, and you can start today. Your internship could be an entrepreneurship. People, you figure out whatever you want to do. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. There's a question Sanjay is asking, Poonam, how do you said rise above politics. Have you ever faced political environment? I have faced political situations. Of course, I'm very bad at politics. I got into a very, very bad situation in my previous job at Oliver Wyman. One of the guys I'd hired, he played politics on me in a very sizable way. And the good news is, if you've done good work, you'll also have lots of supporters to get you out of it, right? Ultimately, absolutely. I had to pick up my phone. So I can only tell you that, some of you know I have a little bit of a bad temper. And I'm just sharing, my experience with you. And it's difficult for me to share difficult stories, but I'm going to share a difficult story, Poonam. So I have a bad temper. You know that sometimes I go overboard, but I'm a nice guy. So people love me in general who know me, who worked with me. They deal with my temper, right, Kuldeep? So I had an assistant by the name of Aarti, and I once got very, very upset at Aarti for something. So Aarti would have confided in one of in this guy who was the guy that I'd hired as a partner, and he gave some chabi to Aarti, and she complained to my global CEO saying that blah blah blah, and there was a big issue that came out of it, and they put some sort of sexual connotations around it, that not in a negative way, but how can you say this to a lady or something of that sort. So I almost got fired. So I had to make a call to my CEO saying, I'm sorry. He said, I can't help you, Atul. I said, do help me. I had some other friends who called him, who were senior partners at Oliver Wyman, and they said, please help Atul. So the conclusion was that I had to, in an open Oliver Wyman forum, I had to stand up and say sorry to Aarti, which I had to do, which I did. And I'm very proud I did that. That I had the courage to do that. I can't tell you how shit scared I was standing up in front of everyone saying I'm sorry about it. And ultimately, because I was honest, and Aarti is a very dear friend, sometimes we laugh about it, and she tells me that, I got really played into it. So don't worry, people will play you. That's okay. But if you're honest, you'll win 90% of it, because you'll have people who'll support you, your bosses will support you. How can a leader be respected but not liked? What are the reasons for this? I mean, people should respect you because you're always honest, right? I mean, let's take an example. If I'm, let's say, upset at Kuldeep or something, and for that moment he might say, Atul sir is shit, right? You could say that because he's also very upset, and that could happen. But if he knows that I don't mean anything bad for him, I think the worst time for this is appraisals. If you're going by politics, and you want to favor the people you like. And I think that's a gyan I give to all my team, that look, once you become a leader, you have to be beyond your likes and dislikes. You have to treat people for their competency and their value in the organization, and not whether you like that person or dislike that person. If I like someone, it's because of the work they do, let me tell you. It's not because they do any, chamchagiri on me. So this chamchagiri does not work in the longer term. So if I like Kuldeep, or I like Amar, or like Poonam, or any of your other faculty members I like because they deliver, they do the work. I mean, Poonam and Amar and Kuldeep have done this phenomenal job of getting all of you together in this amazing sprint, 178 of you. And I think it's amazing. We'll do feedback also. We like you, Poonam, because you delivered it. Or Kamal Kant sir, who was here. he's been making sure that the whole thing works. I don't like him because I like his face, it's just the work that makes a difference. Of course, you can't be going out and shouting around and being, Kamal is not joining us, so he did not hear all the good words I spoke about him, Kamal. Kamal, we were just saying hello to you and we were praising you, but you just came in late. My telepathy didn't work this time. So I think just do the right thing, maintain trust with your team, just don't do politics. You'll be liked and you'll be respected. Just you take a team out for parties is not the thing that they will see you as frivolous. Let me tell you. If you're always joking, but I have to tell a very interesting joke, Poonam. I don't know whether I told this team or not, but I came from a small time. I was a so-called Lallu Solanite, and I joined this great company called McKinsey and Company. And I didn't know what was happening because we were suddenly staying in 5-star hotels. We were speaking English, Kuldeep. I didn't know what was happening. So my first manager was an American guy called Ashwin Adarkar. He was an NRI. So for any small thing, he would give a high five. Okay. So any small, high five. So I thought that was probably life. High five is life, and that was very good. So one day I was walking down the corridor. Imagine you're walking down the corridor of the VC office. And Tino Puri, the guy I spoke about, who was like this amazing guy, I was speaking to him and suddenly he did like this. So I went and gave a high five to him, right? So imagine, let's think about it this way. Imagine Tino is like, who's a young, give a name of a young assistant professor.
Say Vishal?
Let's say Vishal. So let's say Vishal is having a meeting with a vice chancellor and the vice chancellor does like this and Vishal goes and does a high five on this. So that's what I did, right? So this guy was zapped. He didn't know what was happening. So Tino didn't know what was happening and he was blank. Then I looked out, there's a glass thing at the back. So there was another fellow partner of his. He was saying hello to him and I gave a high five, right? So you'll do all of this. Of course, he said nothing to me. I said nothing to him. But after that, we'll always laugh whenever we meet, right? He says, I remember your high five, Atul, right? So we all have crazy stories to tell from work also. Okay, there's a question from Labham. I think that's the last one I'm going to take. I have to.
Yeah, you have to get back to the webinar as well.
Yeah. So he says, so sometimes in groups, some members are not interested in group work and simple as that leader irritated. How do we coordinate? Guys, as a leader, there is always some passengers in there. So the good thing about team is that if there are 10 members in a team, there'll be 4 or 5 who'll always be positive and there'll be 2 or 3 who'll be negative. So work with positive energy, keep on talking positive things. If you keep on going, you'll see that the other 2 over time will come and they'll start behaving properly. If they don't, ignore them. I mean, it's their bad luck. Their learning is not happening. That's what I'll say. So don't waste your energy on negative people. Waste your energy or put your energy on positive people. So I'll give one last thought for all of you. This is very relevant. And I think that's something which I learned again from Dr. Khosla. So my second job after McKinsey was a company called Oliver Wyman that had hired me to be the India CEO, to build a large business in the country. And I had a 5-year contract. And 1 year into Watson White, we decided that we were going to close the company in India. It was not doing well. There were some major challenges globally with Watson White. And I was furious. I'd hired a team of 50-odd consultants, Poonam, and it was my personal. They had joined me because of my personal commitment, and I was furious and I didn't know what was happening. So I went to a very dear friend of mine who happens to be a lawyer, and I asked them, what do I do? And this guy looked at my contract and said, Atul, case kar de. Main tere ko 2 घंटे में stay ले दूंगा. And I was like, Gango, I said, case kar dunga main unke upar. How can they do this? I had a 5-year contract, etc., etc., etc. So luckily evening ho gayi, agle morning case karna tha. So I called up my dad and I said, ki main kal case karta hu is company ke upar, right? And I think I'm going to get a stay. He said something very interesting, Poonam. He said, Atul, you have 2 options. Okay, you can do a stay and you can go legal. It'll take you another 5-7 years to fight the case. Who knows, you might win and you might get some money out of it, etc. But remember, there are 2 things that will happen. You lose your sleep. Secondly, no one is going to touch you again in the corporate world. Your reputation will be in the down. And thirdly, you would have lost 5 years of your life. Why won't you put the same energy into building something positive? How old are you? You know, you're 31. Just do something positive. Go ahead. And that really struck me. So whenever you gussa, put that energy into something positive. तो महात्मा गांधी का एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कोट है पूनम, उससे मैं क्लोज करूंगा. तो किसी ने उनसे पूछा कि महात्मा गांधी, आपको गुस्सा नहीं आता है? कहते बहुत गुस्सा आता है. इट्स लाइक लाइटनिंग. बट कहते मैं लाइटनिंग की तरह नहीं गिरता हूं, मैं उसको बिजली बना देता हूं. So I don't go and kill that other person. We've got another bunch of people coming, sharing screens, right? It's lovely. Anyway, so jokes apart. So use your gussa, use your energy into positive things. Make it electricity and light the world. Don't become lightning and kill the world. That's my last thought. I think we all fail. I think I fail 70% of the time in all that I'm giving gyan about, but I try every day. Every day in the morning, I say that I will not do gussa. I will be positive. I will always trust people. I try very hard, Poonam. I know I fail many, many times. I fail many of you many times, but I promise all of you that I try every day. That is from me.
Okay, thank you. And I would definitely second this, you know, that you sometimes do get angry, but you're also very quick to apologize. I mean, I've over these last 7 years, so many times it's happened that you've been upset about something, but then you've always made the first move to say, I'm sorry. And if I've not responded, the next morning you've reminded me that, you know, I sent you a message and you did not respond.
But I'm getting better, Poonam. You might have seen that. I'm getting better.
Yes, very much. I will not like to name who could be the reason behind it, but definitely yes. So Kuldeep, would you just like to close the session?
So I think I would like to, before Kuldeep closes it, I have a very